They want you distracted, soft, fed on cheap pleasure and borrowed dreams. They want you waking up already defeated, scrolling through other men's victories while your own potential rusts quietly in the dark. And if you're honest with yourself, there was a time you played along, not because you were weak, but because you were never taught the real rules. But this moment is different. This is the line. You are not here to live gently. You are here to live deliberately, to become the kind of man whose power is silent, whose discipline is unsettling, whose presence doesn't beg for attention but commands it without effort. What I'm about to give you is not self-help. It's not motivation. It's architecture. Daily habits that don't make you feel good, but make you dangerous. Habits that strip illusion from your mind and replace it with control. Because every single day you are either constructing your inner empire or quietly sabotaging it. There is no neutral ground. The world does not respect intention. It respects structure. And structure is built through repetition. Everything begins in the same place, your mind. Most men lose the day before they even leave the bed. Their thoughts attack them the moment they wake. Anxiety sets the agenda. Emotion dictates movement. The world bends them because they never learn to resist themselves. But the strategic man wakes differently. He does not react. He observes. He watches his thoughts the way a general studies an enemy formation, coldly, patiently, without attachment. He understands a brutal truth. The mind is the first battlefield, and whoever controls it, controls everything that follows. To control your mind is not to suppress emotion. It is to interrogate it. When anger rises, you don't obey it, you dissect it. You ask where it came from and what it wants. When fear whispers, you don't flee, you analyze it like data. When comfort calls your name, you deny it on purpose. Not because comfort is evil, but because obedience to comfort is slavery. The man who cannot resist his own impulses will always be ruled by someone else's. Emotion is the leash the world uses to drag men into ruin. It clouds perception. It distorts reality. And perception, not truth, governs power. The disciplined mind sees things as they are, not as it wishes them to be. This is why emotional men are predictable, and predictable men are controllable. Cold clarity, on the other hand, creates leverage. It allows you to stay calm in chaos, still in provocation, unreadable under pressure. Like the eye of a storm, untouched while everything around it collapses. Think of your mind as a wild horse. Left untrained, it throws you. Trained, it carries you into battle. Every day you must practice mental stillness, silence, restraint. Not reacting immediately, letting thoughts pass without acting on them. This is not weakness. This is the highest form of dominance. Because the man who can pause while others panic always holds the advantage. Once the mind is disciplined, the next weapon sharpens itself. Time. Time is the one currency every man is born wealthy in, and yet most die bankrupt. The average man spends it like loose change, on distractions, empty conversations, digital noise that leaves nothing behind. The strategic man treats time like a blade. Every minute either cuts forward or cuts against him. There is no such thing as killing time. You are either investing it or bleeding it out. To command your time is to declare war on chaos. You schedule your day like a conquest, not a suggestion. Precision replaces spontaneity. Focus replaces drift. You cut idle entertainment not because you hate pleasure, but because you respect momentum. You limit meaningless talk because words spent without purpose weaken authority. While others chase instant gratification, You build delayed mastery in silence. Power does not grow in public applause. It grows in unseen repetition. When you work while others rest. When you move while others hesitate. When you execute without announcing it. Motivation is irrelevant here. Motivation is emotional. Principle is mechanical. And mechanics outlast feelings. The disciplined man does not wait to feel ready. He moves because movement itself builds readiness. Think of time as a ruthless accountant. Every hour wasted is recorded. Every focused hour compounds. Those who cannot control their time will always labor for those who can. This is not philosophy. It is reality. When you command your hours, you command your energy. When you command your energy, you command your direction. And direction, sustained long enough, becomes power. But even with a sharp mind and disciplined time, most men still fail at the same place. Emotion. Emotions are strings, and the world is full of hands ready to pull them. Rage, jealousy, fear, desire. Left unchecked, each becomes a lever others can use against you. The strategic man does not eliminate emotion. He masters his reaction to it. He understands that the moment someone can provoke him, they own him. Most men break at the first insult, the first rejection, the first loss. They react, explain, defend, explode. And in that reaction, they surrender control. The calm man does something different. He remains still. He observes. He lets others reveal themselves while he gives away nothing. His restraint becomes unsettling. His silence becomes a threat. Emotional mastery is not apathy. It is weaponized restraint. It is choosing logic over impulse, purpose over pleasure. When you become emotionally stable, you become unpredictable. And unpredictability is psychological power. People cannot read you, cannot anticipate you, cannot manipulate what they cannot understand. Imagine walking through fire without flinching, not because it doesn't burn, but because you decided it would not move you. That is emotional control, and when others see it, something shifts. Respect appears without demand. Authority radiates without words. Because the man who controls his inner storms cannot be conquered from the outside. This is only the beginning. The foundation. The sharpening of the blade. If your mind obeys you, if your time serves you, if your emotions answer to you, then you are no longer drifting through life. You are steering it. And once a man learns to steer himself, the world has no choice but to adjust around him. Once your mind is disciplined, your time commanded, and your emotions restrained, something dangerous begins to form beneath the surface. You stop reacting to life. You start shaping it. And this is where most men fall apart. Because what comes next demands a level of consistency that crushes fantasies and exposes weakness without mercy. This is where discipline stops being an idea and becomes an identity. Most men talk about discipline like it's punishment, like it's something you endure until life gets easier. That mindset alone disqualifies them. Discipline is not suffering. It is structure. It is the cold, mechanical force that turns intention into inevitability. Motivation is emotional. It fades. Discipline is automatic. It moves whether you feel like it or not. The undisciplined man negotiates with himself every morning. He bargains, he delays, he compromises, and every compromise is a quiet vote against his future. The disciplined man does not negotiate, he executes. He wakes before the world not because it feels good, but because command requires separation. While others sleep, he sharpens. While others scroll, he builds. Pain becomes routine. Resistance becomes background noise. Think of discipline as gravity. You don't need to believe in it for it to work. It pulls everything into alignment whether you consent or not. When your routines are strong enough, failure feels unnatural. When your systems are precise enough, excuses have nowhere to hide. Routine turns into ritual. Repetition turns into religion. And slowly, almost invisibly, you become inevitable. This is what separates dreamers from rulers. Talent without discipline is a loaded weapon with no trigger. Potential without consistency is decoration. The world is filled with gifted men who never became dangerous because they relied on moods. The disciplined man relies on systems. He does not ask how he feels. He asks what must be done. Every time you wake early when you want comfort. Every time you train when your body resists. Every time you follow through when no one is watching. You lay another stone in a fortress that cannot be breached. One day you realize something has changed. Loss doesn't shake you. Rejection doesn't derail you. Distraction no longer tempts you. You've built something solid enough to stand on. And once discipline locks in, something even more unsettling emerges. Silence. Silence is not emptiness. It is strategy. In a world addicted to noise, the man who speaks the least controls the most. Weak men talk to be seen. Powerful men observe to understand. Words are currency, and most men spend them recklessly, desperate to prove value. The strategic man hoards them. He understands that every unnecessary word leaks information. Every explanation weakens leverage. Silence makes people uncomfortable because it removes feedback. They don't know what you think. They don't know where they stand. And uncertainty breeds caution. While others talk themselves into exposure, you collect data, tone, timing, insecurity, motivation. You listen not just to what is said, but to what is avoided. Imagine a dark room where everyone else is shouting to be noticed. You stand still, quiet, watching. Eventually, the noise reveals patterns. The loudest voices expose the weakest frames. The most emotional speakers reveal their leverage points. And you remain untouched, unreadable, unreachable. When you speak, it is deliberate. Every word lands with weight. Not because you're trying to dominate, but because you've trained yourself not to waste language. Silence becomes your shield. It protects your intentions, conceals your strategy, and magnifies your presence. People begin to project onto you. Fear, respect, curiosity. All of it works in your favor. This is why in negotiation, the one who speaks least wins. In conflict, the one who controls tone controls outcome. In relationships, the one who withholds reaction controls the frame. Silence is not passive. It is pressure without effort. But silence alone is not enough. It must be paired with something even rarer: solitude. Most men fear being alone, not because they lack company, but because solitude strips away distraction and leaves them face to face with themselves. The strategic man seeks it deliberately. He knows solitude is not loneliness, it is refinement, away from noise. Illusions collapse. Without applause, ego dies. In silence, you confront your patterns, your weaknesses, your hidden dependencies, and instead of running from that exposure, you use it. Solitude becomes a forge. Every great strategist withdrew from the herd to sharpen clarity. Crowds dilute focus. Solitude concentrates it. When you are alone, your thinking deepens. You see how systems really work. Who seeks control? Who seeks approval? Who hides behind morality? Detachment grows, and detachment is power. The man who needs no audience becomes immune to manipulation. Think of solitude as high-altitude training. The air is thinner, breathing is harder. But when you return to normal conditions, you are stronger than everyone else. Long walks, quiet mornings, late nights, these are not escapes, they are laboratories. In solitude, you plan 10 moves ahead. You write ambitions like commandments. You observe your own behavior until weakness has nowhere left to hide. And something critical happens. You stop craving validation. Approval loses its grip. When you no longer need people, they lose power over you. Lions hunt alone. Sheep move in herds. The man forged in solitude becomes unpredictable, ungovernable. He cannot be bribed with attention or threatened with rejection. His footsteps begin to carry weight. His absence is felt. His presence recalibrates rooms. At this point, a shift occurs. You stop chasing power. Power starts circling you. But this is where the test sharpens. Because once you withdraw from noise, emotion, and dependence, you must learn to master something subtle and lethal. Indifference. Not apathy, not coldness. Calculated indifference. That is where the next transformation begins. Calculated indifference is where power stops being visible and starts being absolute. Most men think power is action, responding, correcting, defending, proving. That belief alone keeps them enslaved. The strategic man understands something far colder. Reaction is surrender. The moment someone can pull an emotional response from you, they have taken the wheel. Indifference is how you take it back. This is not about feeling nothing. It is about deciding when feeling is useful. The Machiavellian man does not live as exposed wire, igniting at every spark. He moves like insulated steel. Insults pass. Provocations dissolve. Chaos does not infect his rhythm. And because he does not give people what they seek, reaction, they lose leverage. Most people provoke because they want control, attention, validation, proof that they matter in your inner world. When you deny them that, something unsettling happens. Their confidence collapses. Their behavior escalates. They reveal themselves, and all you did was nothing. Indifference is psychological armor. Think of it like standing in the rain. The emotional man curses the storm, runs for cover, complains about being wet. The indifferent man stands still. The rain falls. He remains unchanged. Eventually, the storm passes, and only one man conserved energy. When you remain calm while others panic, you become the anchor. In business, in relationships, in conflict, the calmest person silently becomes the authority. People defer not because you demanded it, but because stability commands trust. Emotional volatility repels power. Emotional control attracts it. This is why indifference terrifies people. They cannot read you. They cannot predict you. They cannot manipulate what does not react. You become a ghost in the room, seeing everything, revealing nothing. Your silence feels like judgment. Your composure feels like threat. Calculated indifference is restraint refined into strategy. When anger rises, you study it like data. When fear whispers, you observe it without obedience. When desire tempts, you delay it. Reaction is slavery. Restraint is sovereignty. And the more you practice this, the more something shifts internally. Praise no longer excites you. Criticism no longer wounds you. You begin operating from internal command instead of external validation. Everything you do becomes choice, not reflex. This is freedom most men never touch. But indifference alone is not enough. Because eventually, life will test you not with words, but with pain. Pain is unavoidable. What separates men is what they do with it. Weak men interpret pain as punishment, as proof that life is unfair, as a reason to collapse. The strategic man sees pain as information, the most honest feedback system in existence. Pain does not flatter, it exposes. Every wound you carry is potential power in raw form. Betrayal, failure, rejection, humiliation. These are not curses, they are materials. Most men drown in them because they try to escape discomfort instead of extracting meaning from it. The Machiavellian man does the opposite. He dissects pain without self-pity. He asks one question: what does this reveal about my weakness? And then he removes that weakness. Pain becomes the forge. Every scar turns into armor. Every loss sharpens perception. Every humiliation creates hunger. When you suffer consciously, you condition your mind to endure without breaking. And endurance is terrifying to the world because it cannot be threatened. Think of pain like fire. It can destroy or refine. The difference is control. The man who runs from pain remains fragile. The man who steps into it becomes tempered. Comfort dulls the blade. Discomfort sharpens it. When pain arrives, do not seek relief. Seek comprehension. Study it. Extract the lesson. Then apply it ruthlessly. Physical pain trains discipline. Emotional pain trains detachment. Financial pain trains precision. Each form strips illusion. This is why the strongest men move calmly. They have already survived worse. Fear loses its leverage when you have endured without collapsing. Failure loses its sting when you learn to feed on it. Your enemies want to see you break. The world tests you to see if you will fold. When you continue forward without complaint, something changes. Pressure loses its power. Threats feel hollow. You stop fearing loss because you understand something most never learn. Nothing external can destroy what has been forged internally. Pain kills delusion, and delusion is the enemy of power. Once you master pain, another discipline becomes non-negotiable: energy. Energy is invisible, but it governs everything. Focus, presence, attention. These are the currencies of dominance. Every interaction either strengthens or drains you. Most men leak energy constantly through arguments, gossip, emotional labor, digital noise. They feel tired not because they work hard, but because they are exposed. The strategic man guards his energy like a fortress. Not everyone deserves access to your attention. Not every conversation deserves your response. Not every conflict deserves your presence. You begin filtering ruthlessly. Relationships, environments, habits. If it does not serve long-term strategy, it is eliminated. This is not isolation. It is efficiency. You protect your mornings. You begin days in silence before the world attempts to claim you. You avoid meaningless chatter. You move only when movement is useful. Every refusal conserves power. Every boundary sharpens focus. Think of energy like water in a desert. The man who spills it everywhere dies early. The man who preserves it decides where life grows. Attention flows where energy goes, and energy builds empires. The calm, focused man unsettles the chaotic. He cannot be baited. He cannot be rushed. He cannot be drained. His presence feels dense, magnetic. People feel it before he speaks. And at this stage, something critical locks in. You stop wasting yourself. You no longer fight every battle. You no longer accept every invitation. You no longer chase every opportunity. You begin saying no without explanation. and each no reinforces your sovereignty, because the man who knows where to place his energy knows where his power belongs. And once energy is concentrated, there is only one thing left to design: legacy. But legacy is not built by accident. It is engineered. And that is where the final transformation begins. Legacy is where power stops being personal and starts becoming permanent. Most men never reach this stage because they live moment to moment, chasing comfort, reacting to noise, forgetting that time erases everything that lacks structure. The strategic man lives differently. He moves as if history is watching, not because he craves recognition, but because he understands that every decision leaves residue. Every habit is a brick. Every day is a vote for the man he will be remembered as. Legacy is not built with words. Words evaporate. Legacy is carved through behavior repeated long enough to harden into reputation. The man who understands this stops asking what feels good and starts asking what endures. Think of your life as architecture. Most men decorate rooms they will never own. The strategic man lays foundations. He thinks long-term, beyond emotion, beyond vanity. He knows that influence outlives visibility, that true power is not being seen everywhere, but being felt even in absence. This is why he protects his name with precision. Reputation is leverage, not through noise, not through explanation, but through results so consistent they speak without translation. He does not chase validation. He engineers inevitability. When he moves, outcomes follow. When he builds, structures remain. Legacy demands restraint. It requires you to detach from the temporary approval, applause, trends, and dedicate yourself to systems that compound quietly. Your daily habits are not small. They are blueprints: how you wake, how you work, how you respond under pressure. These details, invisible to most, shape the monument you leave behind. Imagine carving stone. Every strike matters. Too soft, nothing changes. Too chaotic, the structure collapses. Precision is everything. That is how legacy is formed, through controlled force applied over time. This is why the strategic man does not obsess over appearing powerful. Appearance fades. He obsesses over becoming irreplaceable. He builds skills that cannot be ignored, systems that function without him, ideas that continue moving long after he steps back. While others chase attention, he creates gravity, and gravity bends everything toward it. Legacy also requires sacrifice. You cannot carry excess into permanence. Distractions are trimmed. Relationships that drain are released. Not with anger, not with explanation, but with clarity. The future has limited space. Only what strengthens structure is allowed inside. This is where most men hesitate. They want legacy without loneliness, permanence without discipline, impact without responsibility. But there is no shortcut here. To build something that lasts, you must accept being misunderstood in the present. Silence is often the price of significance. Think of a shadow cast at sunset. Long, quiet, unmistakable. The man who builds legacy does not rush. He positions. He understands timing. He knows when to act and when to withhold. His patience is not hesitation. It is calculation. And as this mindset locks in, something profound happens internally. You stop fearing irrelevance. You stop chasing comparison. You stop reacting to the success of others. Your focus narrows. Your movements sharpen. Your days align around a single principle. Does this add weight to what I am building? If the answer is no, It is discarded without regret. Legacy is not about immortality of the body. It is immortality of influence. It is designing something so solid that even when you are gone, your presence is still felt through structure, through standards, through impact that cannot be erased. This is the final separation between men who drift and men who design. And once you accept this responsibility, once you understand that your life is not something that happens to you, but something you construct deliberately, you cross a threshold. You stop hoping for significance. You start manufacturing it, one disciplined action at a time. At this point, something fundamental has shifted inside you. You are no longer searching for direction. You are enforcing it. Most men live as reactions. Their identity is shaped by mood, pressure, and the expectations of others. They mistake this for personality, but it is nothing more than conditioned obedience. The strategic man sees through this illusion. He understands that identity is not found. It is built, reinforced daily through action. You are not defined by your past. You are not defined by your emotions. You are defined by what you repeatedly choose when no one is watching. This realization removes every excuse. There is no one left to blame, no story left to hide behind. And for most men, that truth is terrifying. For you, it becomes power. Once you understand that habits are not routines but commands, orders you give your nervous system about who is in control, you stop negotiating with comfort. You stop romanticizing weakness. You stop waiting for the perfect moment. Later is exposed for what it is, a slow form of self-betrayal. Power compounds quietly, just like decay. Every day you either sharpen yourself or allow yourself to dull. There is no maintenance mode. A blade left untouched does not stay sharp. It rusts. Men are no different. They don't collapse because of enemies. They erode because of inconsistency. So the awakened man becomes ruthless with alignment. His thoughts match his actions. His actions match his standards. And his standards do not bend for fatigue, emotion, or opinion. This is what makes him unsettling. Not aggression, not arrogance, certainty. The kind that comes from self-command. When you reach this state, the world starts to feel different, slower, more predictable. You see patterns before they form. You sense manipulation before it speaks. Because once your inner world is ordered, the outer world becomes transparent. People respond to you differently now, not because you demand respect, but because you no longer seek it. Your silence carries weight. Your presence feels intentional, and your absence creates consequence. You stop explaining yourself. Explanations are the language of those who still want approval. You move with clarity, and clarity does not justify itself. At first, guilt appears. Guilt for pulling back, for saying no, for no longer being endlessly available. That guilt is the final chain, the residue of conditioning that told you your value came from being useful. The awakened man recognizes this voice and discards it. You were never meant to be accessible to everyone. You were meant to be effective where it matters. As guilt fades, something colder and cleaner takes its place: self-respect. And self-respect changes everything. You stop tolerating subtle disrespect. You stop engaging in low-value exchanges. You stop shrinking to preserve false peace. Peace that requires self-erasure is not peace. It is submission. Now your calm is different. It is not passivity. It is quiet dominance. You do not rush to correct others. You let them expose themselves. You do not chase outcomes. You position yourself so outcomes move toward you. This is the paradox of power. The less you chase it, the more it consolidates, when discipline and structure are already in place. Without discipline, detachment is avoidance. Without clarity, silence is weakness. But you have built the structure. You trained your mind. You commanded your time. You mastered emotion. You forged discipline. You embraced silence and solitude. You turned pain into fuel. You guarded your energy. You designed your legacy. Now all that remains is embodiment. Philosophy becomes posture. Habits become instinct. Silence becomes authority. You no longer need reminders. The system runs. And here is the final awakening. The world is not something you conquer. It is something you outgrow. When you stop reacting, people lose leverage. When you stop explaining, narratives collapse. When you stop chasing, gravity forms. You become the still point others orbit around. Not because you are loud, but because you are anchored. This is not dominance over others. It is sovereignty over yourself. And once sovereignty is established, the world adapts or steps aside. So, continue. Repeat the habits. Refine the silence. Let the world guess. You are no longer here to be understood. You are here to be undeniable.